Welcome to Hamden Action Now. This is Rhonda C. Today I met up with my really good friend, Representative Ann Hughes, in Easton, Connecticut at her sprawling, beautiful property, which overlooks a beautiful pond, to talk about the legislative session of 2021 and how things panned out during COVID. Let's hear what she had to say. All right, look at you. Isn't this fun?
This is really fun.
Yes. So
Thank you. Welcome, Rhonda, and thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, this is this is Ann Hughes. We're at her beautiful home. I mean, look at this. This is amazing. Like, this is her beautiful backyard.
There's random children
And
out
random
there.
children. Yes. And in Easton, you are in the 130th district.
135th.
135th.
Easton, Weston, and Reading.
Easton, Weston, and Reading, which is cool. And how many terms have you had?
This is my second term.
Get out of here.
Second term, reelected by over 2,000 votes.
Get out. Wow. Well, see, that's awesome. So, okay. So we know that you and Robin Porter are like the ride or die. I mean, I spend all my time. I always tell people I keep CTN just playing in the background at home because I always want to find out who is going to pop up on it and like, oh, there they are. And you guys kind of tag team some of the legislation, which is really good. I think it's amazing. Tell me a little bit about the cannabis bill and that drama. I mean, we know what we saw from out here on CTN, but tell me what happened from the insider's perspective. I'm really curious.
Well, we have always been trying to champion the labor cannabis legalization bill because we felt like that had the strongest protections of centering social justice, but also, centering the people who are most harmed by the war on cannabis, and economic justice centered bill. And it got out of committee, but really the governor's bill got championed. And we were very, very worried about big business really having a head start, big cannabis business having a head start. We love the protections of the Social Equity Council, but then, kind of last minute, we said, look, those who have been incarcerated by the war on drugs should have also front of the line access to a piece of this economic pie. And so we championed that. Senator Winfield brought that out. And then the governor basically said he would veto it with that in. And I was like, really? Suddenly you're worried about the people harmed by the war on drugs? Suddenly?
Yeah,
this
people
doesn't add up to you.
They don't want to talk about the war on drugs. I mean, that was a declaration against poor Black and brown and indigenous people.
Which now a lot of the data and a lot of the records show it was flat out. In fact, federally, cannabis is still illegal at a higher penalty rate than opioids or cocaine.
Right. Yeah, because it was so easily accessible. People were growing it in their houses, and then I was really confused because I saw how they were going back and forth on how much homegrown you can have versus how much you can't, and I was all confused. I was like,
either we decriminalize it, all of it, or we don't.
Right, that was my point.
Like you can't decriminalize a little bit and say that that suddenly that a certain class can sell large quantities legally and retail it and vendor it, but the legacy market entrepreneurs are they're still suspect,
right?
And that's what we felt like justice centered that amendment was about. And it was there was a lot of last minute drama that went back and forth over the threat to veto, and
I saw that.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the fight, and then they were saying that you guys were threatening to blow up the bill. I mean, I heard a lot. We heard that from out on the street again. Oh, they're going to blow up the bill, and now we're going to not have anything. Oh, Why are they worried about the $1 billion industry per year industry that's coming?
We kind of always said, look, we want to get it right, or let's go back into special session and get it right, which is ultimately we were going back into special session to do this because it blew up at the end of the regular legislative session. So we were like, if we can't get it right, then let's wait and come back into special session and get it right.
Right. Oh my Lord.
So, you know, we want to, and I've always said to my leadership, I want to champion the best policy and then vote for the best thing that we can get over the finish line.
Right. Lord have mercy. What a mess. And it was a mess to the last day. Wasn't it a mess? I mean, I think I remember, I think it was like all the way down to the wire.
I still don't know if we have the protections that we need to keep this from being hijacked by big corporate, you know, by big corporate,
right?
By big corporate, and the point is, and I hold out hope that the Social Equity Council and the legislature can help put the kinds of protections in to at least give access to the market to those who have been systematically and deliberately denied economic access, and punished for the war on drugs.
But we still don't even know yet, though. Like you said, we're not even really there.
We don't know. So, I mean, 50% of the licenses are supposed to be, reserved for these social equity applicants. But the others can have a big, start forward, and, there could be stuff mired up in the Social Equity Council, and then, the de facto business is up and running and overtaking the market. And that's what we worry about.
That's what we worry about,
And we also worry about that the crumbs that are given to those distressed municipalities and those communities that have been harmed by the war on drugs is not enough. We worry about that. So again, all of this is hypothetical. We got to see how it's implemented. But we are talking real investment, which essentially means real reparations. Real investment means real reparations.
Right.
Real reckoning with the harm that we have done on the war on drugs. Not just lip service, not just a chance at a lottery. Not
Lord,
just a
lottery.
chance at a lottery, but real reparations.
Right.
That is a reckoning of the real harm that this system has caused, that this incarceration, the industrial complex based on this war on black and brown people and the war on drugs has really caused.
And the war on drugs really was generational. I mean, it didn't really, we know it started somewhat in the beginning in the early 90s, but really the war on black people in our community, we know when that started. It started in 1619.
Well, centuries ago, but as a federal policy,
the policies that they made
in the late 60s and 70s, yeah.
Right. I mean, it just really,
and then it just escalated with every administration. Let's get tough.
We have to get tough on that thing, and all it did. I mean, and we still do it now. I mean, in Hamden, we'll talk about it all the time about how much money is invested in the police department. I mean, they are just. I mean, you get this overtime, you get $5 million a year in overtime, I think, or you get some ridiculous amount of number. I mean, it's not even, you don't even know if you're going to need the overtime, but we just budget it in there just in case. But we cut the Board of Ed. We tell the Board of Ed, we need you to find, $1.5 million or $2 million, or we'll give you raises here, but this area we're going to have to find where we're going to cut it.
And where are we resourcing those communities, those young people?
Right.
Where are we showing that we are putting our lip service around, resources are. And the other thing about policing, I gotta say, is look at the training requirements of that. And then you're asking to intervene in mental health crisis. You're asking to intervene in very complex cases of distress. They are not trained for this, and yet they are completely armed. What do you expect?
They are militarized. And they're being told, I was just watching TV today and they were talking to a lady, her husband got sick with COVID. And so she was already in the hospital. And so she said he wasn't answering the phone. So she sent the police to do a wellness check. I'm like, so why are we calling the police to do a wellness check? Because that's one of the pieces of the pie that they are responsible to do. When you,
right.
If I call my mom's house and she's elderly, she doesn't answer the phone, I instantly call the police.
Right.
They're like the go-to for everything.
Right. And maybe that is not a great fit for our community safety and wellness.
Exactly.
Wellness.
Isn't there anybody else you can call for a wellness check?
Exactly.
Right. But this is, this is where we are. So, I mean, again, when you think about how they, that they have continued to escalate the militarization of policing and then continue to pinpoint policy that is going to, continue to, have these communities be charged for, weed consumption, building it, growing it. I mean, it's just a disaster in the making. And it's just been that way.
And it's been intentional, and that's the part that we have to reckon with.
Yeah.
With the intentional, deliberate harm that these systems have wreaked on our communities, we have to be just as intentional and determined to undo the harm. And it's going to be costly, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we can't just throw a few, little nibbles around the edges and say we're done. That reckoning, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, that's the reckoning, and that's the hardest part, because everybody wants to say they did it to themselves, or you did this to yourselves, your community. I mean, I can't tell you the fights I have about New Hallville all the time. Well, they just want to live like that. I'm like, no, we're talking generations of underfunding, underdevelopment, and intentional.
Yeah.
With intentionality.
And barriers for access for capital, barriers for access for clean water,
and clean air,
unleaded pipes, access to home ownership, to livable wages,
exactly,
to education.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So tell me about Harry Aurora. I remember that big fight.
He is my seatmate in the chamber. I don't know if you noticed that. But half the time when he's standing up, you see me sitting beside him, because we're right next to each other in the back of the chamber.
He's so special, isn't he?
But some of the time we have conversations, and I have been able to communicate with my back row chambermates, which aren't all Democrats. Mm-hmm. This bill came up in the back in the waning hours of session about making it a felony to harm a police dog, including kick a police dog, a felony offense. And I was like, really? We're bringing out police dogs who are called out on mostly brown and black and poor people? And
they're making it a felony. He wanted to make it a felony to.
Well, he didn't, but apparently Senator Berthel wanted this bill, and it was being debated in the waning hour and a half. Like 10:30, or I said, this is a waste of time.
Oh my God!
Do you understand what a bad bill this is? Like, there's no way we are going to pass this. Mm-hmm. And so I'm able to sort of have these conversations. I don't know who calls it or why it's even on the go list, but I'm like, guys, this is a really bad bill,
right?
And so sometimes we can have some consensus,
right,
around
some
things. Yeah, some things.
Some things.
It's not as contentious as it was in the early days of our labor committee.
Right.
And
well, I mean, the biggest one was
we sit next to each other.
The Crown Act that day. That was that whole big fight where, it wasn't a fight, but he was just so rude. He was rude to Representative Porter. He was cutting people off. He was interrogating people when they were trying to give testimony, which I don't know. I mean, can we talk about how we should change that whole process? I know that now that I think Governor Lamont said that everybody has to get either vaccinated by the 27th, or then after that you have to submit to a test weekly. So is that kind of like the segue back to we're not going to have any more Zoom access to these public hearings? Because I hope not. There was so much participation this year.
No, we have way more participation, and also it is the safest way for vulnerable people to testify, and their input. The public's input absolutely informed better policy this year. I have no doubt. I had so many people from the nursing homes, from within the nursing homes, testifying about what it's like on Aging Committee and Human Services, and people with disabilities. They never would have been able to make it to the Capitol.
No.
You know, and that's why we passed the virtual visitation bill and the Residents' Bill of Rights. All those things were informed by actual people with lived experience that don't have the privilege of getting themselves to stand all day waiting for their turn to testify at the Capitol. So I am definitely championing at least a hybrid model going forward. I mean, the insurance Department of Insurance hearing this Tuesday will be virtual.
Oh, great.
About all these insurance companies filing for incredible rate increases, 15% rate increases during the damn pandemic, when they came out in industry forced to oppose a public option, to oppose any kind of really affordability guardrails on insurance rates. And they have the audacity to file for 15% increases during a pandemic. And so the public is going to get a chance to testify on Tuesday remotely to say, hell no.
Hell no.
Hell no.
Now, what about the executive authority that Governor Lamont still has? I know that see, I'm getting all the hot button issues, right?
Yeah, the hot button issues. Well,
I know that was an issue because everybody was still concerned.
Rep. Porter and I voted against extending the governor's authority because we very much want to resume the legislative authority. We are co-equal branches. If we need to go remote, if we need to have, extraordinary measures taken as a state, that's what we're here for. Call us back into session. We'll call ourselves back into session and do what needs to be done as a legislative body, representing all of, the whole state.
Right.
And that's where we feel like now, as we've weathered this storm, but we've also been in session. We've also hashed out a bunch of these things. We are ready to function on the people's behalf. So it's not. I was clear during my remarks that I do think in the early days, when we had no roadmap for this and we shut down the entire legislative body, basically, we were still having briefings and informational things and doing a lot of constituent response remotely, but we weren't passing policy.
No.
So it was all executive orders.
I remember.
So now,
that was like April and May of last year.
So now, we've been fully functioning as a legislature in a long session, and during this public health crisis, for as long as it lasts, we want to continue our legislative authority and oversight and extending whatever measures are needed. Right.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I know that was that I saw. I know, because it was like, wait a minute, why does he still have that? You know,
that continues to be contentious, and we are equal partners with the governor, and so and although we don't all agree and we're not a monolith, we are here to do our duty, and every single legislator came in during non-session because they are ready to do their duty, right? They're showing up to represent and to have the people's voice being heard, and I really believe that we need to maintain that.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I think that the COVID pandemic has made everybody more aware, because we know you guys are state reps, and you do a lot of deliberating of legislation and whatnot, but this time, between the special session last year and then the regular session this year, everybody was so much more engaged in and even rolling out legislation. I mean, they were even saying, like, the Crown Act, and I know we even had the police accountability bill that happened even in special session last year.
Right.
But I mean, just can you imagine?
People are paying attention more.
Way more.
Holding us accountable more. Raising their expectation about level of engagement with the public. You know, people are reaching out to us more because we're also the source of a lot of, you know, breaking information or new guidelines or, you know, sales tax-free week or what, you know, admission-free for kids.
Right.
Like we're trying to get out.
Getting into the beaches for free. Yes.
Exactly. We're trying to get out that information to our constituents, to the general public, as soon as we know, we want you to know. And I think that has shifted, at least in Connecticut, the public's expectation of their elected officials. Because when I first was running for office, I would knock on the door and say, do you know who your state representative is? And like 9 out of 10 times they would say, I don't really know. I don't really pay attention to state politics. And I would say, doesn't matter. I'm Ann Hughes and I'm going to be your state representative.
Doesn't matter. So
Doesn't matter.
we're moving on right now.
like let's change that.
Right.
And let's make sure that you know who I am as your state rep. You have my number.
Right.
And let's be in touch.
Yeah, you know, we've gotten folks in Hamden and that New Haven area well engaged. Well, there's a big battle going on in the municipal right now, and it's like I'm not involved in it. Like I started the fire.
Yeah.
And now I'm out of it.
You pulled.
I'm like, I'm back in the state politics again,
yeah.
you know. So, but I really think that we have to, the last thing I want to talk about is the voting rights.
Yep.
That are under attack in our country.
In our country.
And the same thing going on in our state. I listen to all of those.
We're a firewall, but we're not immune.
We are not. I mean, I listened to a lot of those things with, you know, CTN and a lot of testimony that was, you know, in opposition to early voting, no excuse absentee voting,
ballot boxes, permanent.
I mean, let me just tell you right here in Hamden, right in Hamden, we have 4 boxes that have been given to our town. We only have 2 boxes out there.
That's crazy.
So,
I don't understand how
and we're gonna
more
have
access.
Yep. And we're going to have a primary on September 14th, and we only have 2 boxes, one in New Hallville and one at the town hall. And you know, when you argue with these people, and you say, oh, you know what? Oh, well, it's not safe.
Please.
They're not putting $100 bills in the box.
Please. Ours are right outside town hall and police station, every single one with cameras on it, you know. During the primary or during the primary, I was sitting in town hall and just car after car was driving up and dropping theirs off.
Love it.
Dropping theirs off.
Love it.
And that's why we had record turnout for both our primary and our last election, and I believe we will with the municipals as well. Record turnout because people need easy access. Look, this is a new era. This is a new era. People need to pay attention to what's at stake, who's running, do their research, and then make it real easy for them to vote.
Yeah.
And people will do it. But you put too many barriers, and you make it too hard to get to, and you don't have. You don't have assurances of expectation, and then people find that it's not worth it, and that breaks my heart because it's always worth it.
It's always worth it.
It's always worth it to vote.
Right. I mean, you have to know who these people are. And when you vote, it's not over yet. That's just the beginning.
Not the end of it.
I mean, that's just the beginning. Now you
right.
have to call and email.
That's right.
And I don't care on what level they are. If they're
tell them what's important
Senator
to you.
Blumenthal or
that's right.
Ann Hughes.
That's
I don't
right.
care. I will, you have to stay engaged. You have to tell them, I'm not happy about this. We need to change that. This needs to happen. But if they continue to bring up these barriers to prevent people from getting to the polls, we're just going to continue to keep fighting it. We will continue to fight.
We are, we're a laboratory for democracy on the local level, on the state level. And if we can't get it right here, we don't have a lot of hope for our nation. And right. I hope with young people, what has changed is that a lot of young people used to just vote for president.
Yeah.
Really, what's impacting your life, your day-to-day, your rights, exactly. It's your municipals and your state level. Are we able to pass pesticide, bans that are harmful, that are forever chemicals in your groundwater supply, and that's on the state level.
That's on the state level. And I keep telling everybody, just tune into CTN. Just throw it on, like if you have another computer or your phone, just let it play. You would be amazed at what's going on the state level every day.
What's being debated about your access to health insurance, affordability, what's being debated about your workers' rights protections, about paid family medical leave,
yes,
the ability to
stuff.
exactly.
Yes. So we will continue to advocate to make sure that whatever fundraising CTN needs, we're going to keep raising money for CTN because they do a great job.
They do a great job, and they'll come out to the communities and cover things too.
Oh wow,
that are going on. Like it's like the CNN of Connecticut.
It's awesome.
But it's not just us policy nerds. That it's really the general public and educating yourself, like you say, Rhonda, about seeing what's going on and what's impacting you and what's going down.
What's going down? Because you want to know.
You want to know.
You want to know. I definitely want to know. And I like how they even allow you to, as long as you give them credit, you can take clips from it. And
okay.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really kind of come chasing after you. As long as you give them credit for it,
yeah.
You can use their stuff. And it's up there. Like, we can go watch all these things over again from last year, from years ago.
Yeah, just
archives.
About every time towards the end of session when I would get up to speak on the House floor, which is only on important things. I'm not trying to be frivolous. I'm not trying to take up time, but I really want to make sure that we frame the narrative about what's at stake and what we're talking about. Almost always I would get texts right after saying, "Oh, that was great." I was like, I didn't think anybody was watching or whatever.
We are watching. We are. I mean, it's so funny. I was with Senator Moore and all of them last Sunday, and I was saying, like, I remember the day that they were on the Senate floor, and it was Pat Billy Miller and
Senator
you
were like, "Oh,
and I was like,
this is historic."
Who was that other person? I was like, "Oh, that's Senator Miller. That's Pat Billy Miller. Yay, yay!" And I was like, "Yay!" And I was like, and I know these two women. So it was, somebody's hurt.
Somebody's not happy. Well, somebody's not always happy.
There's somebody unhappy.
But I'm not there to make people happy. I'm there to represent and to champion the best important policy that we can over the finish line here in Connecticut, because there's a lot that is really urgent. We didn't take enough about the climate crisis, and it's raging across the country and across the globe. We did not move that hardly even a needle, and that is shame on us. We did not move health insurance in the middle of a pandemic, and we have a very, very powerful industry against that is pouring money into maintaining the status quo, which is literally making us sick.
Yeah.
So, and justice, like really justice-centered legislation. There's a real a reckoning and I think the Senate got it right in its Juneteenth agenda last year, and saying everything has to be
so we can reflect
through a racial justice lens. And yet we ask for a racial justice impact statement for policies, and they say we're not equipped to do this. We can't really do that impact study.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been a priority yet.
Yeah, we need it to be a priority.
Been a priority yet. Again, the people who this most impacts, we need to see that first.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard getting everybody who are not impacted to pay attention. And that's the biggest haul. That's the heaviest lift on all of this. All of this. Oh, I don't have to worry about it. I just go to the polls. I just vote. I don't know what everybody's problem is. We already know who I'm talking about. I've heard that this person say this more than one time. Oh, I don't have to worry about that. What are you talking about? We don't have any issues with voting. I don't know, why do people keep saying we're having supremacy? Why do we keep saying that we have a problem with a war on drugs? Just don't sell them. You're fine. So I mean, it's really problematic. But I'm excited. I'm excited for 2022. I think I always get excited when the session starts up. So
I am excited too, and I worry that people are way too focused on re-election. No, we only have this short window to do the right thing. Let's do the right thing. Let's do the best policy. that we can get through and get over the finish line. And I really believe the public will help us do the rest.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and
thank you guys, and thanks everyone for
my
watching.
little camera crew back there, Simone.
Thank you, Simone.
Thank you so much. And so, yes, what we're going to be doing is, I just wanted to come out, like, you know, COVID is still a thing, but you know, we're able to now come out and see each other, which is good. I mean, I still want to have you come on and, you know, come to StreamYard and come to our, you know, our wonderful logins. Especially during a session when you're actually traveling between now.
That's right.
Please call me, text me, and say, I got something to talk about.
Okay.
And then just send me a text, and I'll send you the link, and we'll just go. It'll be totally cool.
No holds barred.
No holds barred. We'll just go and chat it up. All right?
All right.
So, well, you take care, and thank you so much.
Thank you.